Hi, this is Thomas from Apex Game Tools. In this video we'll be taking a closer look at the layer mapping component on the game world. The purpose of the layer mapping component is to map Unity defined layers to three predefined layers in Apex Path. So in Apex Path we have three layers of interest. We have a static obstacle layer. This represents obstacles in the scene that will not be moving, such as walls. Then we have the terrain layer. This represents all the geometry in the scene that you will like units to be able to walk on. And finally the unit layer, which represents the units that you want to be navigating. Now only two of them are actually required, the static obstacle layer and the terrain layer. Well, actually only the terrain layer, because if you have no static obstacles you can leave that out, but most will have some static obstacles. If you do have static obstacles, then the static obstacle layer is required. Obviously you will always want some terrain to walk on, so this is a required layer, and the unit layer is optional but recommended. I'll get back to what it offers in just a second. So when you add a quick start to a unit or just create your game world in the scene, this layer mapping component will obviously be added, and also the three layers as you see here that are already mapped will have been created if there are enough vacant layers to create them. So here we can see we have the static obstacles, the terrain and units layer created by Apex Path. Now this does not mean you have to use these. You can define your own layers, or if you already have your own layers defined to represent any of these three things, then you can just use those layers instead and remove the ones generated by Apex Path. You can also map multiple layers. So if, for instance, you have multiple layers that represent terrain, then you simply map all of them. So let's say that we want water to also represent terrain. We simply click that as well, and then we have multiple Unity layers mapped to just a single terrain layer in Apex Path. So just a quick look at what the different layers do. Well, the first two are pretty obvious. A static obstacle layer, it simply provides the ability for Apex Path to support static obstacles. And the same with the terrain, it supports having terrain to walk on. And the unit layer, as I said, is not required because you can easily have the scene work without having this mapped. But what it does give you is the ability to click select units, and there will also be add-ons that actually do require units to be in the unit layer in order to be able to scan and see other units. But for Apex Path itself, the unit layer is optional. So that is all there is to that component. See you in the next video.